What if everything you thought you knew about ancient Egypt was just the tip of the pyramid? We've all seen the dazzling gold, the majestic pharaohs, the incredible hieroglyphs. But beneath the shifting sands and within the towering stones of this legendary civilization, there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered. They built structures that defy our modern engineering, mastered the stars, and created a written language that's still a marvel. Yet, even with all our advanced technology, there are baffling mysteries about ancient Egypt that continue to stump the brightest minds on Earth. Get ready to have your assumptions challenged, because in this video, we're diving deep into the unsolved puzzles that still leave researchers scratching their heads. Join us on a thrilling journey back through time as we unravel the enduring enigmas of ancient Egypt. From the silent stare of the enigmatic Sphinx to the lost city beneath the waves, we're going to explore the secrets that keep us utterly captivated. You might think you know ancient Egypt, but trust me, what we're about to reveal will make you wonder, what else don't we know? Welcome back to our journey into the heart of ancient Egypt's most profound mysteries. And there is no greater enigma, no more potent symbol of this ancient civilization than the pyramids. For millennia, these colossal structures have pierced the desert sky, silent witnesses to countless generations, inspiring awe and endless questions. But what exactly are we looking at when we gaze upon these monumental wonders? And why, after thousands of years of study, do they continue to guard so many of their secrets? Our focus begins naturally with the most famous of them all, the Great Pyramid of Giza, often attributed to Pharaoh Khufu. It stands as the last remaining wonder of the ancient world, a testament to a civilization whose understanding of engineering, astronomy, and mathematics seems almost impossibly advanced for its time. Let's confront the sheer scale first. The Great Pyramid, when originally built, stood over 146 meters, or nearly 481 feet tall. For almost 4,000 years, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth. It's composed of an estimated 2.3 million individual stone blocks, each weighing on average about 2.5 tons. But that's just the average. Some of the granite blocks used in the internal chambers, particularly the King's Chamber, weigh between 25 and 80 tons. To put that into perspective, 80 tons is roughly the weight of an unladen Boeing 737 airplane, or a large blue whale. Now, here's where the baffling part begins. How were these colossal stones quarried? The granite, for instance, came from Aswan, nearly 800 kilometers, or 500 miles, upriver. How were they transported from the quarries to the Giza Plateau? And perhaps most astonishingly, how were they lifted, with such precision, to such incredible heights? Modern engineers with all our cranes, laser levels, and advanced machinery look at the Great Pyramid and are still left scratching their heads. The commonly accepted theories involve various ramp systems, straight ramps, spiraling ramps, or even an internal ramp system, as proposed by some researchers. Imagine thousands upon thousands of workers pulling these immense blocks up steep inclines, lubricated perhaps by water or milk. It's a staggering feat of human labor, coordination, and ingenuity. But even with these theories, there are significant practical challenges. A ramp long enough to reach the top would have to be incredibly massive itself, requiring more material and effort than the pyramid itself. And how do you maintain the structural integrity of a ramp supporting tens of tons of rock? Beyond just lifting, there's the precision. The four sides of the Great Pyramid are oriented almost perfectly to the four cardinal directions, true north, south, east, and west, with an astonishing degree of accuracy. The base itself is almost perfectly square, with deviations of less than a few inches over its 230-meter length. How did they achieve this level of accuracy without surveying equipment as we know it? Did they use astronomical observations, carefully marking the rising and setting of stars? Or did they possess a lost science of surveying that we can only guess at? The sheer precision with which these massive blocks were cut and fitted, often without mortar, creating seams so tight you can't even slip a piece of paper through them, speaks to a level of craftsmanship that borders on the superhuman. It challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities and pushes us to reconsider what we believe was possible in that era. And if the exterior construction is a marvel, what lies beneath and within is even more intriguing. Unlike many later pyramids, the Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't have elaborate wall carvings or paintings in its main chambers. Instead, its interior is a labyrinth of passages, shafts, and three primary chambers: the subterranean chamber, carved into the bedrock beneath the pyramid, the Queen's Chamber, and the King's Chamber, which famously houses a large, empty granite sarcophagus. The Grand Gallery itself is a structural marvel, a towering, corbelled passage over 8 meters high and 47 meters long, leading up to the King's Chamber. Its purpose, beyond providing access, is still debated. Was it a ceremonial ramp? Did it house some unknown mechanism? Its sheer scale and engineering complexity suggest it was far more than just a hallway. Perhaps even more enigmatic are the narrow, precise shafts that ascend from both the King's and Queen's chambers. For centuries, these were believed to be air shafts for ventilation, but their size, barely 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, makes that unlikely for ventilation. Furthermore, the shafts from the Queen's Chamber were blocked by small doors with copper handles, indicating they weren't open to the outside. What was their true purpose? Some speculate they were symbolic pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the stars, directly aligning with specific constellations like Orion or Sirius. Others believe they might have been conduits for some unknown energy or part of a grander, spiritual mechanism. The discovery of these doors has led to robotic explorations, pushing tiny cameras down these ancient conduits, revealing even more blocks and tantalizing clues. Then, in 2017, a truly groundbreaking discovery emerged from the Scan Pyramids project, which uses muon radiography, a non-invasive scanning technique that can see through dense materials. They detected a massive, previously unknown void or chamber directly above the Grand Gallery, a space estimated to be at least 30 meters long and several meters high. This is not a small crack, it's a significant structural anomaly. The existence of this big void is confirmed, but its purpose remains a complete mystery. Is it another hidden chamber containing undiscovered artifacts, scrolls, or even another burial? Or is it a relieving chamber, a sophisticated architectural feature designed to lighten the load on the Grand Gallery below? Or could it be part of a previously unknown construction method, a space left behind as the pyramid was built? The tantalizing possibility of a hidden chamber within the world's most famous pyramid sends shivers down the spine of every archaeologist and history enthusiast. It reminds us that even with something as thoroughly studied as the Great Pyramid, there are still fundamental things we don't know. But beyond the how and what of the pyramids lies the most profound question of all. For centuries, the predominant theory, taught in schools and depicted in countless documentaries, is that the pyramids were solely tombs for pharaohs. They were built as eternal resting places, meant to protect the pharaoh's body and all his earthly possessions on his journey to the afterlife, ensuring his resurrection and eternal rule. And certainly, many pyramids did contain sarcophagi, and later, mummies and grave goods. But is that the entire story? Consider the extraordinary astronomical alignments. The three Giza pyramids are aligned with remarkable precision to the belt stars of the constellation Orion. Specifically, the slight offset of the smallest pyramid, Menkaure, mirrors the slight offset of the faintest star in Orion's belt. This Orion correlation theory suggests that the Giza complex was built as a terrestrial map of the heavens, reflecting the ancient Egyptians' deep reverence for the sky and their belief in the pharaoh's cosmic destiny. If they were merely tombs, why go to such incredible lengths to align them with distant stars? And what about the mathematical proportions embedded within their design? Researchers have found that the dimensions of the Great Pyramid seem to encode fundamental mathematical constants like pi, and the golden ratio, phi or phi, with astonishing accuracy. For example, if you divide the perimeter of the base by twice its height, you get a number very close to pi. Similarly, the ratio of the slant height to half the base perimeter approximates phi. Was this intentional? Was it a coincidence of their construction methods? Or does it speak to a profound, almost esoteric, knowledge of geometry and universal principles that we've yet to fully grasp? These observations lead to alternative, often more speculative theories about their true function. Some propose the pyramids were not just tombs, but celestial observatories designed to track and predict astronomical events, crucial for their agricultural cycles and religious festivals. Others, delving deeper into more unconventional ideas, suggest they were energy concentrators or even power generators, harnessing some unseen cosmic or telluric energy due to their unique shape and material composition. These theories, while lacking mainstream archaeological consensus, compel us to question the limits of ancient technology and understanding. Furthermore, the vast complexes surrounding the pyramids, causeways, temples, satellite pyramids, and boat pits, suggest a multifunctional purpose that extends far beyond simple burial. These were living, breathing complexes, hubs of religious activity, economic centers, and focal points of national identity. They were monumental expressions of power, faith, and a deep connection to the cosmos. The enigma of the pyramids thus remains. Were they merely the final resting places of mighty pharaohs? Or were they sophisticated instruments, temples, and observatories, encoding ancient knowledge of the universe, built by a civilization whose scientific and spiritual understanding we are only just beginning to appreciate? The answers perhaps are still hidden within their stone hearts, waiting for us to unlock them. Imagine a city so grand, so pivotal to an ancient empire, that it became a legend, then vanished completely, swallowed by the sea for over 1,000 years. For centuries, tales of a magnificent port, a vital gateway to Egypt known as Heracleion to the Greeks and Thonis to the Egyptians, were just whispers carried on the Mediterranean currents. But sometimes, truth is far more astonishing than fiction. And at the dawn of the 21st century, one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of our time brought these ancient legends vividly to life: the rediscovery of the lost city of Thonis-Heracleion. The search for this legendary city began with meticulous determination. For years, the intrepid underwater archaeologist Dr. Frank Gaudio and his team, part of the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology, meticulously surveyed the seafloor off the coast of Abu Qir Bay in Egypt, near Alexandria. They weren't just searching blindly, they were following subtle clues from ancient texts and maps, hoping to pinpoint the location of this powerful port. And then, the sonar revealed distinct, unmistakable shapes, geometric patterns that defied natural formation. Divers descended into the murky depths, and what they found was absolutely breathtaking. Emerging from the silty seabed were colossal statues, some standing several meters tall, majestic temple ruins, and the clear outlines of an entire ancient metropolis, remarkably preserved by the cool, dark embrace of the sea. This wasn't just a few scattered ruins. It was a fully fledged ancient city, largely intact, frozen in time on the ocean floor. The moment of rediscovery wasn't just about finding ancient stones, it was about finding the very keys to unlock centuries of forgotten history. Among the very first and most significant finds was a massive black granite stela, almost 2 meters tall, dating to the reign of Pharaoh Nectanebo I in the 4th century BC. This stela explicitly detailed a tax decree concerning Greek imports, and critically, it explicitly mentioned both Thonis and Heracleion as names for the same city. This was the irrefutable proof. The legends were true. This wasn't just a lost site, it was the legendary lost city. This revelation fundamentally reshaped our understanding of ancient Egyptian history and its relationship with the wider Mediterranean world. For over 1,200 years, from its founding, perhaps as early as the 7th century BC, Thonis-Heracleion was a vibrant, bustling hub. And then, sometime in the 8th century AD, it simply vanished beneath the waves. For over a millennium, it was lost to human memory, existing only in obscure historical texts and local folklore. Its rediscovery was nothing short of a miracle, opening an unprecedented window into the intricate lives, beliefs, and economic engines of ancient Egypt at a crucial crossroad of cultures. This wasn't just a forgotten port. It was the primary gateway to one of the most powerful empires on Earth, and its rediscovery has allowed us to fill a crucial gap in our historical records. What quickly became overwhelmingly clear from the vast underwater evidence was that Thonis-Heracleion was not just any city. It was the principal port of entry to Egypt for all maritime trade coming from the Mediterranean. Before Alexandria's rise to prominence centuries later, this was the undisputed customs city, the bottleneck through which virtually every foreign ship, laden with goods from distant lands, had to pass to enter the Nile Delta. This strategic position made it an incredibly wealthy, vital, and profoundly cosmopolitan city. The sheer volume and incredible diversity of artifacts unearthed from the seabed paint an astonishingly vivid picture of this ancient international trade hub. We found hundreds of anchors of various designs clustered around the harbor area, indicating constant, heavy ship traffic. Thousands upon thousands of bronze and gold coins from different eras and different empires have been recovered, reflecting the vast economic transactions that took place here daily. But it's the more unique artifacts that truly tell the story of its cosmopolitan nature. We've recovered exquisite Greek pottery, amphora that once held wine and olive oil, finely decorated kylixes used for drinking, alongside Phoenician amulets and even tantalizing hints of connections with the Indian subcontinent, suggesting the furthest reaches of its trading network. Imagine the sounds and smells of this vibrant port: the creak of wooden ships, the flapping of sails, the chatter of merchants speaking not just Egyptian, but Greek, Phoenician, and perhaps many other tongues. The aroma of exotic spices, foreign timbers, and rich perfumes would have mingled with the salt air and the sounds of goods being moved and exchanged. Customs duties were collected here with meticulous Egyptian efficiency. Goods would be transferred from seafaring vessels to Nile riverboats to be sent inland to cities like Memphis and Thebes. Conversely, vast quantities of valuable Egyptian products, grain, papyrus, fine linen, were loaded onto outbound vessels destined for the entire Mediterranean world. Thonis-Heracleion was Egypt's economic pulse, its vital artery, directly connecting it to the entire Mediterranean network. It was a place where Egyptian priests mingled with Greek traders, where pharaonic traditions met Hellenistic influences head-on. The archaeological finds beautifully illustrate this cultural fusion. We find statues of Egyptian deities like Isis and Osiris depicted in distinctly Greek styles, and conversely, Greek gods being worshipped in Egyptianized temples. This city was a living, breathing testament to ancient globalization, long before the term was even conceived, demonstrating a remarkable degree of cultural integration and economic interconnectedness. It truly served as a monumental bridge between two titans of antiquity, the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and the rising power of the Greek world. But perhaps the most enduring and unsettling mystery surrounding Thonis-Heracleion is not how it thrived, but how it ultimately vanished. For a city so magnificent, so vital to Egypt's economy, its complete demise and submergence into the sea remain profoundly puzzling. It wasn't a sudden cataclysmic event like the volcanic eruption that buried Pompeii. Instead, evidence suggests a more gradual, yet ultimately irreversible, process of destruction that spanned several centuries, leading to its complete abandonment and eventual disappearance from human memory. The prevailing scientific theory points to a catastrophic combination of natural disasters, primarily related to the inherently unstable geology of the Nile Delta region itself. Thonis-Heracleion, like many other ancient cities in the delta, was built on a mixture of unconsolidated clay, sand, and silt, the very soft sediments deposited by the Nile over millennia. This type of ground, especially when saturated with water, is highly susceptible to a phenomenon called liquefaction during seismic activity. Imagine an earthquake striking. The ground, instead of behaving like solid earth, can temporarily lose its strength and behave like a liquid, causing massive structures, even colossal temples, to simply tilt and sink into what was once seemingly solid ground. Archaeological evidence strongly suggests that multiple, powerful earthquakes, some likely accompanied by devastating tsunamis, repeatedly rocked the region over a period of centuries, perhaps starting around the 2nd century BC, and continuing until its final demise in the 8th century AD. We found clear signs of collapsed buildings, shattered columns, and areas where entire sections of the city seemed to have tilted and slid downwards, indicating massive ground movement. The sheer weight of the monumental temples and other heavy structures built on this unstable deltaic ground would have exacerbated the problem, essentially helping them sink deeper into the liquefied soil. It wasn't a single dramatic sinking. It was a relentless series of structural failures and ground subsidence events that slowly, inexorably, pulled the city beneath the waves. But for a city so important, so central to Egyptian life for so long, some still wonder if there was something more sinister at play, beyond just natural forces. Could political upheaval, perhaps invasions from outside powers, or a sudden, devastating change in trade routes have played a role in its abandonment, making it more vulnerable to natural disasters? Was there an unforeseen environmental catastrophe, a major plague, a widespread famine, that forced its inhabitants to flee, leaving the city to the mercy of the elements? While there's no direct archaeological evidence for a sinister cause like a targeted destruction or a sudden, unexplained mass exodus, the mystery of exactly why its inhabitants eventually abandoned it, leaving behind so many treasures for the sea to reclaim, still fuels fascinating speculation. Thonis-Heracleion now lies in a serene, aquatic slumber, a ghost city perfectly preserved by the very waters that claimed it. Its rediscovery has not only rewritten ancient maps and filled critical gaps in our understanding of trade, religion, and daily life, but has also provided unparalleled insight into the complex relationship between human civilization and the relentless power of natural forces. As archaeologists continue their meticulous work beneath the waves, who knows what further secrets this magnificent, mysterious, sunken metropolis will reveal about its glorious past and its ultimate, watery demise. Few monuments in the world evoke such a powerful sense of mystery as the Great Sphinx of Giza. This colossal creature, with the body of a lion and the head of a human, crouches silently on the Giza plateau, its gaze fixed eternally eastward toward the rising sun. For millennia, it has watched over the sands of Egypt, a silent guardian, a profound riddle carved in stone. But despite centuries of awe and intense scrutiny, the Sphinx remains one of ancient Egypt's most perplexing puzzles. What secrets does this ancient guardian truly hold? The very name Sphinx is Greek, meaning strangler, or to squeeze, referencing the mythical creature that famously posed riddles to travelers in Greek mythology. While the Egyptian Sphinx didn't pose riddles in the same way, its very existence, its age, and its purpose have posed a monumental riddle to humanity for thousands of years. For much of its history, the Sphinx lay buried up to its shoulders in sand. It was only through successive excavations, most notably in the early 20th century, that its true scale was revealed. But even when fully uncovered, its silence continued to challenge our understanding. What does its inscription mean? Well, unlike many Egyptian monuments covered in hieroglyphs, the Sphinx itself is largely devoid of extensive inscriptions that definitively tell us its story, its builder, or its original name. This lack of explicit information is, in itself, a significant part of its mystery. However, between its colossal paws lies the Dream Stela, erected by Pharaoh Thutmose IV around 1400 BC. This stela tells a fascinating story. Thutmose, then a prince, fell asleep in the shadow of the Sphinx, which was largely buried at the time. He dreamt that the Sphinx spoke to him, promising him the throne of Egypt if he would clear the sand from its body. Thutmose fulfilled his promise, and indeed became pharaoh. While this stela gives us a later historical anecdote, it doesn't tell us who built the Sphinx, when it was built, or its original name. It merely tells us that even 3,400 years ago, the Sphinx was already a venerable, sand-swept monument, its origins shrouded in antiquity. The prevailing archaeological consensus links the Sphinx directly to Pharaoh Khafre, the builder of the second-largest pyramid at Giza. The face of the Sphinx is believed to be a portrait of Khafre himself, and its location, directly in front of his valley temple and causeway, reinforces this connection. However, this attribution is not without its challenges. There are no definitive inscriptions on the Sphinx itself that name Khafre as its creator. The facial features, while bearing a resemblance, are also generic enough to leave room for doubt. Some researchers argue the face bears more resemblance to Khufu, Khafre's father, or even an earlier pharaoh. This debate about its builder, and by extension its precise age, opens the door to even more profound questions about its history. Was it carved from a pre-existing natural rock formation? If so, when was that formation initially shaped? This leads us directly to perhaps its most perplexing geological puzzle. One of the most fiercely debated aspects of the Sphinx concerns the erosion patterns visible on its body and, critically, on the walls of the enclosure in which it sits. For most of its recorded history, Egypt has been an arid, desert climate. The prevailing winds carry sand, which causes aeolian erosion, a kind of sandblasting effect that creates horizontal striations and pitting, which we do see on some parts of the Sphinx, especially higher up. However, a significant portion of the Sphinx's body, particularly the bedrock of its enclosure, exhibits very different erosion patterns: deep, vertical fissures, undulating contours, and scoop-like depressions. This type of weathering is characteristic of water erosion, specifically prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall or significant water runoff over thousands of years. This presents a major conundrum. The last period of significant rainfall in this part of Egypt, when the climate was more like a savanna, ended roughly 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. If the Sphinx was indeed built by Khafre around 2500 BC, it would have been constructed after this wet period had largely concluded. So, how do we explain the extensive water erosion? Geologists like Dr. Robert Schoch from Boston University have famously argued that the extensive water erosion on the Sphinx and its enclosure indicates that it must be thousands of years older than the conventional archaeological dating. His theory suggests the Sphinx could date back to the end of the last ice age, possibly as far back as 7,000 to 10,000 BC, when the climate in Egypt was significantly wetter. This would make the Sphinx the oldest monumental sculpture on Earth, predating conventional Egyptian civilization by millennia. Mainstream Egyptologists counter these claims, suggesting that the erosion could be explained by other factors: localized water accumulation from torrential downpours in historical times, ancient Nile floods reaching the base of the monument, or even the natural weathering of the softer limestone from which the Sphinx is carved, which is particularly susceptible to water. They also point to the lack of other monumental architecture from such an early period in Egypt, arguing it would be an isolated anomaly. The debate is fierce, polarizing, and fundamental. If the Sphinx truly predates the Pharaohs, it would force a radical reevaluation of human history and the origins of civilization itself. The erosion patterns, seemingly innocuous to the casual observer, hold the potential to completely rewrite our understanding of ancient times. It's a mystery etched directly into the stone. Beyond its age and origins, another tantalizing mystery surrounding the Sphinx is the persistent rumor, the whisper in the academic winds, of hidden chambers within or beneath it. For centuries, folklore has spoken of secret passages and undiscovered rooms, perhaps containing lost texts, artifacts, or even the remnants of a vanished civilization. While no definitive, massive hidden chamber has been publicly confirmed, there have been numerous intriguing anomalies detected over the years. Early explorers and even the Egyptian government have investigated. In the late 1980s and early 90s, using seismic surveys, a team led by Dr. Thomas Dobecki and Dr. John Anthony West reported detecting a significant rectangular anomaly beneath the Sphinx's left paw, consistent with a chamber. Their findings sparked enormous excitement and controversy. More recently, advancements in non-invasive scanning technologies, similar to those used in the Scan Pyramids project for the Great Pyramid, have added fuel to the fire. Ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity, and other geophysical surveys have continued to reveal what appear to be voids or anomalous spaces in the bedrock directly beneath the Sphinx and around its enclosure. Are these natural fissures, sinkholes, or geological irregularities? Or are they indeed man-made chambers, carved into the bedrock by ancient hands for a purpose yet unknown? However, the Egyptian Antiquities Ministry maintains strict control over any invasive exploration, prioritizing the preservation of these irreplaceable monuments. The challenges of excavating such a sensitive site are immense, requiring careful planning and cutting-edge techniques to avoid damage. So, while the technology exists to potentially confirm or deny these hidden chambers, the actual exploration remains a delicate and ongoing process. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 was a moment that captivated the world. The sheer wealth and artistry unearthed were beyond imagination. Yet this triumph was soon overshadowed by whispers, then pronouncements of a malevolent force at play. The curse of the Pharaohs. Were ancient spirits rising to avenge the intrusion upon their eternal slumber? Or was there a more earthly explanation for the strange events that followed? The idea of a mummy's curse wasn't entirely new, but it exploded into global consciousness with the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb. The event that truly ignited the legend was the death of Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy patron who funded Howard Carter's expedition. Just 5 months after the tomb was opened, he succumbed to complications from a mosquito bite that became infected, leading to pneumonia. In an era gripped by spiritualism and fascinated by the exotic, the press sensationalized his death, immediately linking it to a supernatural curse unleashed by disturbing the pharaoh's rest. The narrative gained momentum with each subsequent death of someone connected, however loosely, to the tomb. George J. Gould, a visiting American financier, died of pneumonia after touring the site. A.C. Mace, a key member of Carter's excavation team, succumbed to pleurisy and exhaustion. Even Captain Richard Bethel, Carter's secretary, met a mysterious end years later. Each passing fueled the public's fascination and the media's frenzy, solidifying the notion of a vengeful ancient power. It's vital to consider the context of the time. The early 20th century was a period rife with superstition and a strong interest in the occult. The idea of powerful, ancient forces lying dormant resonated deeply with many. The media of the day often prioritized sensationalism over strict factual reporting, readily amplifying any unexplained event as proof of the curse. However, when we examine these deaths more closely, a more rational picture begins to emerge. Lord Carnarvon, for instance, had a history of poor health and a weakened immune system due to a previous car accident. His death, while tragic, might have been more attributable to infection in a pre-antibiotic era, exacerbated by the harsh conditions of the excavation. Perhaps the most compelling counter-evidence is the long life of Howard Carter himself. The man who first entered the tomb, who meticulously cataloged its treasures, lived for another 17 years after the discovery, eventually dying of lymphoma at the age of 64. If a potent pharaonic curse truly existed, wouldn't the primary violator have been the first and most severely affected? Many other members of Carter's core excavation team also lived for decades after their involvement. This strongly suggests that the curse was more a product of public imagination and media sensationalism than a genuine supernatural phenomenon. While the dramatic claims of a supernatural curse largely fall apart under scrutiny, the idea that ancient tombs could harbor dangers is not entirely unfounded. Scientists have explored the possibility that the so-called curse might have had more tangible, biological roots. Ancient tombs, sealed for thousands of years, are unique environments. They are often dark, damp, and poorly ventilated, creating ideal breeding grounds for various types of bacteria, molds, and fungi. Dormant spores of organisms like Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus flavus, and even certain types of actinomycetes can survive for millennia in such conditions. When these tombs are opened, these microbes can become airborne, and those entering the tomb, particularly with weakened immune systems or pre-existing respiratory conditions, could be susceptible to infection or allergic reactions. In the early 20th century, hygiene and understanding of biohazards in such environments were far less advanced than today. Archaeologists often worked in incredibly dusty conditions without proper respiratory protection. It's plausible that some of the illnesses reported could have been triggered or exacerbated by exposure to these ancient microbes. While not a mystical curse, it represents a real, albeit natural, health risk associated with disturbing long-sealed environments. Furthermore, the power of suggestion should not be underestimated. The intense media coverage and widespread belief in the curse could have had a psychological impact on individuals involved. The nocebo effect, where negative expectations can lead to negative outcomes, is a recognized phenomenon. If someone believes they are cursed, Any subsequent illness or misfortune might be attributed to the curse, potentially amplifying their symptoms or creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of ill health. This psychological factor, combined with potential exposure to biological agents, could have contributed to the cluster of illnesses and deaths that fueled the legend. Despite the rational explanations and the debunking of the supernatural claims, the legend of the Curse of the Pharaohs continues to hold a powerful grip on the popular imagination. It has become a staple trope in literature, film, and popular culture, far transcending its historical origins. From classic horror films like The Mummy to countless books, video games, and sensational documentaries, the idea of vengeful ancient spirits protecting their tombs remains a compelling narrative. These fictionalized accounts often depict dramatic and supernatural consequences for those who dare to disturb the rest of the pharaohs, further cementing the curse in our collective consciousness. Even today, nearly a century after the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, the mere mention of a mummy's curse can evoke a sense of unease or fascination. It speaks to a primal human fear of the unknown, of disturbing the dead, and perhaps a subconscious respect for the power and mystery of ancient civilizations. The legend, though largely unfounded in the supernatural sense, serves as a potent reminder of the allure and the perceived dangers associated with the distant past. Ancient Egypt remains an enduring enigma, a testament to human ingenuity and the vastness of what we still don't know. These mysteries aren't failures of our understanding, but rather powerful invitations to continue exploring, questioning, and dreaming. The journey to unravel the past is far from over, ensuring that the magic and allure of ancient Egypt will captivate generations to come. You want to learn something new every day? This channel is for you. Subscribe to get the latest tutorials and lessons.